Hello and welcome to YoFiFest's Castle and Brooklyn King Arthur Talkback. We want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, the Gorin Group. Thank you so much for making this program possible. As you're watching, please feel free to drop questions into the chat. We will get to all of the audience questions towards the end of the Q&A. And now I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Dave.
Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, Tyler and Lizette, for joining us to talk about your film. It's nice to have you both. So let me start out by asking you, this film took a long time to do. So is this something, are you a filmmaker who makes a lot of long tailed documentaries, or was this a first for you?
This is my first feature documentary. I've done short films before, but this was a passion project. And the reason I did it was I felt a strong sense of indignation about what was happening to this elderly couple. And nobody was really noticing it. And he didn't even notice it. He didn't even know what was really occurring. But if you look from the outside, it was quite evident. So I got interested for that purpose. And he owned his building, and I didn't understand, what was the problem? Why are you putting these people outside their own building and taking a SWAT team and dragging them out?
I think cause-related cinema is terrific, and certainly there's a cause here. What attracted you to this cause? When you saw this story unfolding, like you said, what made you feel that it needed to be documented and that you were the one to do it, especially having not done one like this before?
I know what it feels like to be, I think displacement bothers me. And as a person who comes in Canada and came to this country, it doesn't matter. Immigrants are often, it doesn't matter who you are, what country you're from. You're a stranger. And it's a displacement that you create for yourself. But often when you're trying to find your place in a place like America, you become displaced. I was evicted. I was, pushed around. And so I have a kind of a kinship to people who are displaced. And I really have a thing about elder people. It's just because they were kind of sweet, eccentric artists, and nobody was helping them. And they were in fact making fun of them. And I saw them when I spoke with Arthur. I thought he was this visionary artist, and I had to do it. It was just something I had to do.
And it took you years and years of following this story, and it looked like the story was going to end, and then it would change and it would pivot. How did you pivot your documentary with it? How did your vision have to keep adapting as the story unfolded before you?
Well, I find the documentary is its own creature. There are people who know what their documentary is going to be about, but that's kind of, sometimes that's a political thing, or they have something they want to portray, and it's kind of biased in a way. Mine was wanting to show from his point of view, so I had to have a degree of empathy, which is probably not very good for, a lot of documentary filmmakers who criticize me for that. Don't get too involved, don't feel. But as a person who was an actress for years and a person of the theater, I felt comfortable trying to put myself in their shoes, sharing it. I was actually sharing every experience and being there. And he trusted me. And that was another thing, because I had no crew basically, and show up, and I, had the boom mic between my legs, and I had the headphones and the camera, and kind of holding on to a 108-foot building, with no harness. It was at times kind of scary. I found it really thrilling. It was, it's an experience I would never, I don't regret it. It was horrible because I felt every time he would feel sad, I would feel sad, because I was really sharing it. So I never experienced doing this before, but I liked it. I think that this is a different kind of filmmaking, and I enjoyed it, even though it took years, because I had to be there for those events as long as it took him to go through the process of what was happening with his building.
So what's the biggest challenge for doing a story that takes years? How do you stay with it? How do you stay engaged and energized and passionate as time goes by?
Well, it's not easy, you know, and also I had to find work in between as a, you know, I do DP work, I'm doing drone work, you know, for films and stuff like that. And just struggling. And Lizette, you know, kept us alive a lot. You know, she just was the rock and helping and really encouraging. So it was difficult. And I would come home crying because just watching what was happening to them, you know, it was just to see something so unjust and so and frustrating because no matter, and I was with him at the courts and I saw the injustice. And, you know, it changed my attitude toward politics. It changed my attitude toward life in general, because everything I saw is not what it wasn't really what it was. It was, in fact, in the beginning of the movie, you can see I'm very, you know, they're actually telling me who they are and what they're doing. And I'm like, la, la, you know, that pink fluffy unicorn, I'm like, la, 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 you know, just not really, I don't see them as bad guys, or I'm just trying to get, hey, you know, and it just, and then you find out what they did and you know they did it. And you're like, oh my God, I was such a fool. But then you can't blame Arthur. I think the thing, what was happening to Arthur, and which is why I stepped in also, was the press was screwing him over. They were just acting like he was this crazy old guy with his wife, and how dare he own all that, and how dare he build that building, and who the hell does he, you know, it was really bad. And that was another thing. It was, I wanted to really have a movie about his voice. This is for him and Cynthia. It was really for that. And I think everybody, there's two sides to every story. We don't ever hear. A lot of times we're bullies. The press is bullies. Let's admit it. Something happened to me years ago and it was outrageous, outrageous. And I experienced it. And I was like, wow, that's not fun.
I mean, certainly this story is told with a huge degree of empathy on your part. Um, but like you said before, some people will tell you you can't be too emotionally involved because it is so draining. And you could see as he went through it and was drained, in the couple times that we hear you speak during the film, you could feel that you shared it. You were right there with him, shoulder to shoulder. Is it hard to go through it, but also go through it from behind the camera, as opposed to having that detachment that some filmmakers would want?
I had to kind of come out of my body a few times so I could be technically, you know, there and watch what I was doing. And as you saw from the camera work, I, you know, was zooming in at the right time. And so I had to separate myself a lot of times. So it was, I was kind of compartmentalized. I don't know if that's a talent or a mental illness, but I was like trying to, for him, I always kept saying, it's for him, it's for them. Yeah, this is, I'm serving a purpose. So I was like, almost like, I wanted to be the medium. I wanted to be the way for him to do this. That's a lot, the least somebody could do for him.
Right. Well, it also looked like you had a huge amount of trust between the two of you, that allowed you this access, allowed him to open up to you, in a way that he might not have to another film crew. Did you know him prior to filming?
No, and it was very hard to get Arthur's trust because he had been screwed over by so many nice people. It was quite a process. Lizette was at times very frustrated with Arthur because he was kind of hard on me. And I just kept on, and she was like, what do you know, why? And I said, because this man is being persecuted. And I said, of course he doesn't trust me. But after a while, I was his best friend and he was always calling me, and, you know, we shared a lot. So I kind of forced myself into the situation. I wanted to do it. And I wanted to show him that I was honest, that I was, and I kept saying, this is about you. You don't even have, and he signed all the releases and he wouldn't do that with anybody. He didn't give anybody releases. And there was other people there trying to do their version of his story.
So Lizette, how did you guys work together? Was there a clear division of labor? Was there how did your collaboration work?
It was like Tyler explained. It was very compartmentalized. We have to do that. Otherwise, it gets a little blurry. And also, you take things where you're not supposed to. One thing that Tyler didn't mention is the fact that she actually went on her dime to the United Nations in Geneva because there was a periodic review that Obama was doing, and the UN tried to, open that forum for people. So Amber really made it a point to participate in that and to tell Arthur's story globally as much as she possibly could. So yeah, there's always it's hard not to be incredibly personal, but at the same time you can't help it. You're a human being, you know.
So were you involved with the project from the very beginning?
Yes, I was, but not as closely as Amber was. I was mostly from afar, and basically, at first telling her why are you doing this? This is insane.
She didn't want
And
to do it. She was like, really, we had arguments. She was like, "Are you crazy? Are you insane?" And I was like, "But it has to be, it's a beautiful story." And then she met Arthur, and then she doesn't like anybody. Lizette and I have been together for many years, and we did theater together. So, and she doesn't, and we don't even see each other get, right through the coals, obviously. And so, yeah, she wasn't too keen on it at first. I think it took her, but I just didn't stop. I just didn't stop.
Tyler is incredibly tenacious. She just will not stop. So
Clearly, I mean, the film demonstrates that, both of you, to stay with it. Kudos to you. There must have been days when you said, we got to give up. We can't follow this forever. Did you ever feel that
Well, we
it
were
was hard to go on?
we were doing another film at the same time, which is going to be coming out this coming year, called Blues for 475, which is about 475 Kent Avenue. And they had a similar situation, but they were loft tenants, and the point is they all were paying their rent and all this, but the city would come in and say, "That's dangerous." And it's a very kind of almost funny story, because there was a matzah factory in the basement of the building, and they said that the wheat that was in these little bins was going to explode the building. It's been there for 10 years. It was one of the most famous matzah factories in the world. In fact, they line up to get these matzah, but they decided they were going to, and so they came and in 5 hours told everybody, "You have to leave in the street, 20 below zero weather." Just imagine that. No place to go. No, they were there with their dogs, their kids. And that's what they did. And that's what they did to Arthur. I'm trying to get people to understand there's preemptive forced eviction. They did it in Louisiana. That's where they started this little trick of theirs. It's dangerous. They have their experts. Okay. And it's a city, it's state, it's agencies that should not be doing this. And they're involved with some kind of money stuff.
So besides being filmmakers, it sounds like you use cinema as a tool for social activism or for community organization. It sounds like it's a very, very powerful thing for the two of you. It's not just making movies.
No, not these ones. I mean, my mother and father were, I guess you could say, I don't use the word activist. I'm just a human being who gives a shit. I really don't. I hate injustice. I mean, I don't care who it is. If I see anyone being bullied, I go off the wall. I probably get myself hurt. I mean, I just can't shut up, and that's just my nature. And my parents were like that. And when I was a little girl, we were in Rhode Island when there was a lot of racism in the 60s, and my mother was the musical director of the NAACP, and we had a lot of really wonderful musicians, because we were all a musical family. They'd all come in, but we were doing activism back then. I guess she was, my mom and dad. They were helping to, there was a lady, Martha Prescott Noonan. You probably know about her. She's a very well-known civil rights woman. And she was friends with my sister. And Martha took off from there to go to get the vote in Mississippi. Like she was part of that whole trip. So we were pretty connected. So I got that sense from my parents, I guess, that when somebody is, you know, when something is wrong, you shouldn't be standing there with your, I hate to say it this way. I won't say it that way. Okay. I won't say with your thumb up your ass, but that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
If something's going on and you have a voice, and you know, we got hurt, we were physically hurt. You know, it wasn't fun. We had to move all the time. And in this situation, it wasn't easy for me. There was things that happened and I was ostracized by certain things. So, you know, it's a big choice to make, but I wouldn't be able to live with myself otherwise, actually.
So to accomplish this goal, to not sit there, to be an active participant in fighting injustice, how is cinema and visual storytelling a tool for that for you?
It's a wonderful tool.
Fabulous tool.
It's the only tool, you know, because you're
allowing.
You're showing people exactly what's happening. It's
exactly.
not like I'm telling them or I'm bullshitting. It's like, here.
Yeah.
You know, just see through my eyes. Here, just look. I'm not even interfering. You don't see me really interfering in the movie. You don't see me interfering, even though I wanted to. I never did. You don't see me making an opinion, even.
The fabulous thing about what I saw Tyler do was that she allowed the audience to, as if the audience is going through it. The audience is going through this eviction step by step, little by little. People are taking things away, you know, one straw at a time, wearing them down. And yeah, it's a fabulous tool.
So
invaluable.
Since it is through your eyes, literally your eye to the camera, there must be, the film runs a little over an hour-ish, but there must be hundreds of hours of footage to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what ratio of what we saw on screen compared to what you shot, but just, you know, it seemed like the story was constantly unfolding and that you seemed to be there pretty much every step of the way. Plus the setup to kind of give us an introduction to Arthur and his family. How do you decide? How do you edit it? How do you approach something that has so much verite footage to figure out what stays in, what goes out? Because this could have been a mini series. This could have been 40 hours long, I bet.
It can still be a mini series. I think it would be a great mini series because, you know, there's so many things I had to leave out. And just being with Arthur and you know, the way he is, I mean, I think he's very entertaining.
Can I just say that Tyler's a Virgo? She literally remembers where everything is, and she's very good at tabulating it. So I have to say that without that.
Leo, I'm going to argue with you, darling.
Okay.
But even if you remember where it all is and you can tabulate it, how do you decide? How do you pick what stays in, what goes out?
Because I was trying, it was a while, the actual editing took me about almost a year but I did shoot for the cut. I mean, I would go there and kind of feel what was important. So, and the shooting ratio, well, if it was something like an interview, there was no 1:3. It was like bang. There was no other shots. No, that was it. One, bang. So even the interviews, no, there was no second takes. Bang. So there you have it. There's your stuff. You have, you know, Letitia James, you have this one, you have Arthur, and so I kind of, you know, and they were tapes. A DVX 100, it was tapes. And I had to translate that to digital. And then I had to get it onto 1920 by 1080 and make it into HD. And it was a nightmare. And people were just nice to me. I don't even know why, because this guy, I didn't even know him. He was in Facebook. I met him. He was in New Zealand. And I was, how am I going to get this onto a DCP? You know, it's SD. So
the project started in 2007. And from there until now, technology has changed very much.
So I had to get a new camera, you know, and it was a lot of, and on top of everything. And then I wanted a drone shot. So I decided to become a drone pilot. it was just a lot of involved stuff, but people came forward, and I just think that when you do something, I don't know how to say it, if you love something, other people will love it too. I mean, even our Brian Cox experience was, and I didn't, all the stuff, the footage from the news places, I didn't pay a penny. And do you know how I met them? By chance. And it was insane. Like the Dutch footage, that was insane. Arthur says, this is Dutch footage. So I looked at the VHS stuff and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get that into here and make it look well? My friend in Norway, I'm talking to him about it. He goes, oh, you're talking about my friend Max in Holland. And I'm like, that's insane. And he contacted him. And this is how many years later, because that was filmed in 2000, that little thing when he's with Arthur, I think it was in the 1980s or 2000, something like 1990s maybe. And so he said, sure, you can have it. He didn't charge me. Nobody charged me anything. And of course, I have deferred pay for my musicians. Hopefully, when we get distribution, they're going to be the first ones paid, and the people who gave me photographs. But basically, it was by the seat of our pants and just people being kind.
They loved Arthur. They loved what he did to that extent that they just really, they wanted to know what happened. And when they found out, they just came forth. Yeah.
I think that your enthusiasm, both of you, must have been contagious. And people want to, if you believe and you feel strongly, people want to believe with you, and they want to also feel strongly. I think we live in a world where people are fundamentally, they want to do good. They want to be part of making things better. They don't always know how.
Exactly.
Sometimes things interfere with that. But I think if they see you doing it, people I think are genuinely good. That's just my aside.
I agree. I mean, they might be misguided, but I think people, and even when people are overly, let me just say, corruption, in politics, we know that the things that happened to Arthur and to the people at the 475 Kent building were, wait till you see the other movie. Anyway.
I look forward to it.
I'm surprised I'm alive. But I developed a way of looking at it. So because I would have been too mad, I would have been too angry. And what I started, when I'm a Buddhist, and I was chanting a lot about how do I bring my life condition up to a situation where I don't look down on people, judge them, or be angry at them. Because sometimes I really wanted to hit people. I just really wanted to go up and punch people. It was just, it was just, I have to tell you, that's the truth. You just see somebody being picked on and you just want to go up and go, bang, bitch slap somebody. And I couldn't. And I was I was always kind. And that was one thing I learned, that in the point of being kind, they realized, I think, that what they were doing. And I have to say that some of them, the ambition, you can't, people have ambition and they have their world demands that ambition. And they're not even aware that they're hurting somebody, taking their home, throwing them on the street. No, because I'm going to get this position. They don't see it. And I have a kind of compassion for that now. And I guess that's what I take away from the movie. It kind of made me develop into a different kind of person.
So if you were to share kind of on the technical side, if there's a filmmaker who wanted to do something like this, kind of a documentary where they're going to follow a subject for an extended period of time, as technology changes, as conditions change, as the story may take them to other countries at some point, what advice would you two give to other aspiring long-form documentary filmmakers?
Well, I don't think you need to have the most expensive equipment. I think I love Panasonic, so a DVX 200 is a very adaptable, fabulous camera. And if you're a photographer, you can use a Fisher-Price toy and it'll look fabulous. If you really know what you're doing with the camera, and DVX, you don't need a Magic or Blackmagic. You don't really need that. You can have a camera that is compact, that is adaptable. You can put a wide angle on it, and very, very little things, and just really think about things in a different way. Like think about things like, I don't know if you like Agnes Varda, but she inspires me because she was very simple. And I think simplicity. Think simple. you know, when you're making your budget, of course you have to put as much as you can because you're trying to get the financing. I'm not saying for that, but I'm saying when in reality, if you're going to go to other countries, I used to, unfortunately, I couldn't bring my big camera there, you know, because I just went by the seat of my pants to the United Nations, and I know that footage wasn't great, but it served its purpose. You know, it's like just be brave and
Go for it.
plan too much. Like, don't plan too much. It's going to bring you. You're going to be on. You're going to be doing serving the reality. You're not there to. You're there to interpret in the reality of what is, not fixing it so it comes out the way you want.
Yeah.
I mean, aesthetically, of course. I mean, aesthetics, you have to have your own vision, aesthetic wise. But I mean, as far as that, you don't need any. I think people can do this.
My advice to people is run a marathon, because you're going to need the strength. You're going to need to know that you know you have a vision, you have a finish line. It's there somewhere. It might be 26.2 miles somewhere, but it's there, and you will get to it. And just have that. So yeah, that's my my advice to people.
Well, the two of you certainly had a lot of stamina, and maybe it was measured in hours of footage or calendar years of shooting, as opposed to miles. But I think you ran that full marathon and did a very nice job.
Yes, Tyler did,
I know we're
definitely.
a little pressed for time, so I do want to take some questions. Adrian, I see that we have some questions.
Yes, Nancy wants to know, how has this film led to more activism on your part?
I mean, I did a short film called Sweet Soul in Exile, which we won the Berlin Audience Award. We won about a lot of awards last year. It's a short film. So I've never stopped doing this kind of work. I don't work with groups. I don't play nice with the kids, sorry. But I have my own, the way I approach things, because it's a very personal thing when I'm working with people and seeing what they're going through. It's better that way. They open up to me. So even with the Sweet Soul in Exile, which was a kind of a similar situation, we haven't stopped. We're doing Blues for 475, which is going to be coming out soon. And you know, basically I'm just living, and whatever else comes up, it doesn't mean I'm just working about, you know, a displacement of artists. That's not the only thing I'm interested in. If something else comes up that I find really needs to be done, I'll do it. But I mean, I have 3, 4, or 5 projects coming up. One of them is Let Them Eat Geese, about the Canada geese, which are being slaughtered indiscriminately by the USDA, gassing them to death with some crazy, you know, craziness. That we have quite a few projects. Touched by Duza, about Leonora Duza. We have Ellen Burstyn in that, Paul Sorvino. So we have other things at the same time. I don't consider myself an activist. I know that sounds crazy, right?
If I can just add to that, I don't think that this made Tyler do more. How does this lead you to do more? I think that's just the way she was built.
I don't know how to
So, Adrian, I know we are running out of time, but do we have time for one more question?
We have one more question from Hugh, who says, the camera work is superb. Did you have a lot of challenges filming?
Yeah, there was a lot of challenges. I was always there with my blower and trying to keep the lens clean, number one. It was dangerous, you know, because it was under construction, the building. You know, I had to plan the shoots the night before, because even though it was cinema verite, which means you're there and you're filming, I wanted to have some kind of aesthetic to it. I wanted it to be as beautiful as possible. So, you know, I employed different filters and lenses and, you know, techniques. A lot of it was handheld, but I had a kind of a stabilizer that I would use. And, you know, I tried my best, and I had these yeah, I mean, I just tried my best. I don't consider myself the best DP in the world, but for that, what I was doing, I styled it that way. I wanted it to be very colorful too. If you notice, it's not very pastel color. It's because he's so colorful, and I think art is almost like in your face. I wanted it bright, so I didn't do one of my other films. I kind of did in different tones, but this one I didn't do a lot of coloring on. I shot it as was, and didn't do a lot of coloring afterwards on this particular film. Did I answer the question all right?
I think so. I think that the big takeaway is that he thought it was beautifully shot. So it's
Thank you.
it's unfortunately we are running out of time. I think it's a fascinating story, and that the two of you did this is fascinating to me, that you just stayed with it for that long. I've never done a project that long. I don't know a lot of people who have, so I really admire those who do. Any last thoughts you want to share with us before we have to sign off?
I'm just really happy to be with the YoFiFest. It's my first screening. We had an opportunity last year, but we were trying to go for the bigger festivals. I didn't really agree with that concept. We had a bit of an argument about that. But finally I said, my thing is just let the film bring itself where it's going. Okay. It's just the way I am. And I am very happy to be on this festival, and I'm glad it's my premiere, and I don't care. Well, I do care that it's not on a big screen. Yes, it does bother me. I have to say I want to see it on a big screen. I really do. It kind of, I wish it was, but I think this festival is, first of all, the other films are very good. And I don't want to be on a festival where there's crappy films because it makes you look bad. So I was really happy to be with a bunch of really good filmmakers, and you and Pat are so amazing. And, you've really tried to make this a nice experience.
Yeah,
so thank you so much
Well,
for
thank you. That's very kind of you. I'm sitting here in an empty theater. I would love to have you guys come up when conditions allow, and we can have it up on our screen here, and give it that proper in-person premiere. Maybe this was the online premiere. And we're not the biggest festival in the world, so we do appreciate you choosing us. It's very nice of you. And I cannot wait to see the next one. If this is any indication, I think it's very exciting. And I love the fact that it's both local, in that, from where I'm sitting right now in our theater, I could be over there in Brooklyn in 25 minutes. So I like that it's local, but I also like that it's much bigger than that. It's also universal. So it is really a nice balance of everything we look for. So thank you for trusting us with it. Thank you for letting us show it. For those of you who are watching it, or who are watching this, thank you for supporting independent film. Thank you for taking an interest and really supporting people who are telling stories you might not otherwise hear. Just because it's not on Netflix or HBO or Amazon doesn't mean it's not a good story. Might mean it doesn't have a huge budget, but it's worth you seeking it out. And this is a great example of that, and supporting filmmakers like these guys. So Tyler and Lizette, thank you so much. And
thank you again.
We look forward to seeing you in person at the next one.
All righty.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Adrian, for producing it. Thank you for Patty and Alex and the rest of the YoFi staff for making the festival possible.
Yeah.
And thank all of you filmmakers and film fans who are attending.
Woohoo.
Thank you, everybody who's
Bye. Thank you.
down. I love you.
Woohoo.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.